Hello and welcome back to the National League Rugby Preview Show, round 17th edition, powered by Talking Rugby Union. And it was great to welcome back a full complement of fixtures, wasn't it, in round 16 after the postponement of the week before. All 56 clubs were in action last time out, and whilst many were playing their first matches for almost a month and shaking off some post-Christmas rust, there were some unbelievable games that took place across National 1 and National 2. And before we look back at some of the main talking points from last week and ahead to the final weekend of January already, a big shout out to both Blackheath and Billingham for their time on last week's National League Rugby Preview Show. They really did show some brilliant support around it as well, which we really appreciate, and both celebrated victories in round 16, which is always nice when you speak to a club in the week. But on to round 17, where our feature clubs this week are Dorking of National 2 East and Taunton Titans of National 2 West. And once again, Dorking are flying high in National 2 East, whilst Taunton host Exeter University on Friday night in National 2 West. And there's some nice overlaps between both Taunton and Exeter University in terms of coaches and playing personnel as well. And with that in mind, whilst also chatting to Taunton this week, we were also joined by a special guest on the show in the form of Exeter Chiefs Director of Rugby, Rob Baxter. So more of that to come in the National 2 West section of the show. But as always, let's dive straight into things, and we start in National 1. So round 16 in National 1 saw a full house of home victories across the board, including bonus point successes for all three of the main title candidates. But for leaders Richmond and third place Rotherham, it wasn't plain sailing, as both had to come from behind in the second half to clinch their respective wins. Now, for leaders Richmond, they entertained 13th placed Esher last Friday night, but found themselves 15-12 behind at the break. But in the second half, Rob Powell's troops put their foot on the accelerator and scored 4 tries to seal a 40-22 win under the lights at the Rag. And that was Richmond's first game back since the Christmas break. So maybe they were shaking off a bit of rust in that one, but in the end they were able to return to winning ways. As for Rotherham then, a double from Sale FC's Mark Dixon meant the Titans trailed 17-10 at half-time at Clifton Lane. The scores from Charlie Capps and Jamie Cook, as well as a penalty from Lloyd Hayes, turned it around for Harvey Billion side, who continue their momentum in the top three, don't they? Sale FC just couldn't add to their tally in the second 40 as the Titans claimed yet another victory, while Ramsey's flying start at Old Bath Road against 8th place Dings Crusaders set the platform for their 26-17 bonus point win. 2 tries in the first 6 minutes from winger Thomas Posniak laid that foundation, as we say, as Rams began 2025 with a maximum. So on to the top half of the table then, where the gap between Richmond and Rams remains at 1 point. Rotherham went close but were unable to secure a try bonus point against Sale SC in that game we just mentioned, meaning they are now 5 points off the summit. There were excellent wins also for Rosslyn Park and Blackheath in round 16, with the latter scoring 31 consecutive points in the second half to come from behind against Birmingham Moseley and seal a 51-26 win. It's an 8th consecutive home victory now for James Shanahan's side. Into the bottom half of the table, where it was a special day for Sedgley Park's Matt Riley, who celebrated his 450th appearance for the club with a 25-10 win over Leicester Lions. Matt made his debut for Sedge in 2006, and according to statistician Stuart Farmer, Matt holds the record for the most appearances for a single club in the pro era either side of the English Channel. So congratulations to Matt on yet another milestone, and to Sedgley Park as well, who have moved up to 10th in the standings following the 3rd successive home win. So on to the final set of fixtures for January in National 1, and we start in the Midlands with Birmingham Moseley hosting Plymouth Albion. Albion will arrive at Billsley Common off the back of a 4th straight win after edging past Bishop Stortford 24-21 in round 16, but they will be able to extend. But will they be able to extend that record on Saturday? Moseley have lost just once at home all season. The aforementioned Bishop Stortford take on Sedgley Park. Stortford did hold a 21-14 lead in that game against Plymouth last week, but their indiscipline was punished in the end. It's a first game back at home for Tom Coleman's men since the start of December, but they will do so against a Tigers side that have lost just one of their last 5 matches. Bottom of the table, Darlington Monan Park take on Blackheath. DMP did claim a try bonus point in their 49-24 defeat against Roslin Park last weekend, leaving them 9 points behind 12th place Leicester Lions. DMP are starting to collect points though, but Blackheath will be seen as possible favourites for this one as they target just their 3rd away win of the season. And we finish by looking at the top 4 who are all away from home in round 17, starting with 3rd place Rotherham going to Dings Crusaders. Dings drew with leaders Richmond and gave Rams a run for the money at Shaftesbury Park earlier this season, so they do have the ability to cause the Titans problems on Saturday, but will they be able to stretch their unbeaten home run to 6 matches? Roslin Park going to Esher. Kieran and Powerside are eyeing up a 5th win on the bounce at Molesey Road, while the tough run of fixtures continues for Esher, who will be aiming to halt a run of 4 straight defeats. 2nd place Rams visit Leicester Lions. Rams actually lost this corresponding fixture last season 26-24, but Seb Reynolds' side looked to have their speedy focus back, while the 12th place Lions will be aiming to respond after 3 away defeats in a row. And lastly, Sale FC entertain Richmond at Hayward Road. The Dogs are 6th without a win, but almost all of those defeats have been by narrow margins. So could Sale arrest that run by upsetting the odds and inflicting a 1st away defeat of the season on the table toppers? We begin National 2 in National 2 East this week, where table toppers Tunbridge Judians made no mistake on their return to action as they made it 14 wins from the 15 matches they have played so far this season. They beat bottom of the table Worthing 45-17 at the Slade, but they were made to go through the gears in this one. Worthing landing punches in the first half and were only 24-17 behind just after half-time, but TJ showed their efficiency and their clinical edge to eventually pull away from Worthing, but the Raiders certainly gave the league leaders something to think about in this one, as did 11th place Sevenoaks away at 2nd place Barnes. Now, Barnes ultimately won this game 2017, but Sevenoaks were absolutely stubborn in defence and did lead 10-5 at half-time, but 2 yellow cards after the break opened the door for Barnes, who, as we say, went on to win 2017 and secure the bonus point victory. So bonus point wins for both Tunbridge Judians and Barnes, and 3rd place Dorking also followed suit in what was the game of the round in National 2 East when they travelled to Bury St Edmunds, because Dorking scored 3 tries in the final 11 minutes as a 3rd place side snatched a 43-42 victory in Suffolk, when Will Metcalf of Bury St Edmunds scored his hat-trick on 64 minutes to put the home side 42-24 in front. It looked for all the world like Jacob Ford's side were going to record another home victory, but not for the first time this season. Dorking showed their powers of recovery, and Henry Anscombe scored the decisive try in the last minute, which was coolly converted by Tom Hardwick to complete an absolutely remarkable comeback from Dorking at Bury St Edmunds. And Dorking have left it late against the likes of Barnes, your Westcombe Parks and Havants this season, but that might just top the lot last weekend at Bury St Edmunds. But what it means for the league table in terms of the top half of the standings is that Dorking remain 8 points behind Tunbridge Juniors after that bonus point success with a game in hand, which comes against Old Albanian at the end of February, while TJs also have a game in hand over Barnes, which comes next week against Sevenoaks. So a lot to be sorted out and tidied up over the next month towards the top of National 2 East. In the bottom half, Oxford Harlequins and Sevenoaks both picked up bonus points in round 16, while there were victories for both Henley Hawks and Old Albanian respectively. But going back to the title race, where yet again Dorking find themselves in the conversation towards the top, and the Red and Whites are our first feature club of the week on the National League Rugby Preview Show this week. Now, Dorking were promoted back into National 2 in 2022 after relegation from Level 4 in 2016. But since their promotion, the last 2 seasons, they finished in 3rd spot. So they are very much one of the leading sides in this division. And yet again this season, that is absolutely the case. Now, Director of Rugby Armand Roux has a long affiliation with the club, having been a player, a former captain, and of course, he is now the boss of Dorking. So with the Surrey-based side experiencing yet another strong season, and with a big few weeks coming up, starting with their home fixture against Henley Hawks on Saturday, we decided to catch up with Armand, as well as club chairman Shaun Hammond. Armand, usually when we start these interviews, we start by reflecting on the season so far for teams, but we can't ignore the remarkable ending at Bury St Edmunds last weekend. We swapped texts actually last season about the tense games that Dorking were involved in last year, and it seems to have carried over into this season. So has the heart rate settled since Saturday afternoon?
Just about. I think there's a never say die attitude with the team we've got. So when we were over there and we were behind, I was always quite positive that we have the ability to come back, knowing we've got some previous record of doing so. So inevitably, just pleased to get the win over the line. You know, Bury played some cracking rugby, to be honest. So we had to dig deep to try and get that W.
Yeah, absolutely, Armand. And I guess, Shaun, as much as it's not great for the heart rate and then the nails of supporters, it does show that Dorking are one of the entertaining teams to watch in National 2 East. So if anybody is thinking about getting down to Dorking between now and the end of the season, they're going to get value for money, surely.
I think so. We've had so many close games this season, and I think we've had 3 where we've won with the last play of the game. So it does make for excitement. But at my advancing age, I'm not sure I need it.
Are you having stern words with Armand then, Shaun, after every game?
No, we don't have stern words.
I guess, though, the bigger picture on a more serious note, Armand, is yes, you've been involved in these tight and dramatic games, which Shaun mentions there, your Westcombe Park, your Hammond, etc. But what it has done is kept Dorking right in the mix in these top 3 places where you seem to have really settled over the last kind of 2.5 years. So that must be really pleasing to be in this position again, also with a couple of games in hand to boot.
Yeah, no, of course. I think you always look at the start of the season, you've got some sort of ambition that you want to go after, and there's standards as a club that we like to adhere to. And when we've got a group of a couple of new faces joining, it's always making sure everyone sort of understands the Dorking way of playing and how we like to sort of go about the business. So when these games are a bit tighter, you know, we sort of galvanise ourselves a bit and push it through. So inevitably, we're in a place now where we would have loved to be, is to be in that top 3 again, in the hunt for that top spot. So yeah, pleased for the games we have pulled through, to be honest with you. And there was one that got away with Canterbury at home. You know, we missed the conversion at the end to win that game, and that's probably one that came back and bite us, you know. So it swings and roundabouts.
Shaun, just to kind of rewind the clock back a little bit to when Dorking were promoted a couple of years ago, I think it was the first time they were back in National 2 for kind of 5 seasons. What was kind of the remit for you, the club, for Armand, when you were back in the league? Because ever since that first home game against Worthing a couple of years ago, Dorking don't seem to have looked back at all.
Yeah, I think we learned from the experience of our first entry into Nat 2, and I think we paid the price for not being an aligned club, for having, you know, the administration and the playing and the coaching all aligned. So we were pretty convinced that's what we needed to do, having a clear understanding of what the objectives were and how we were going to get there, and getting the players buying into the culture. And with Armand being the conduit to that. We've been successful in our goals so far, and we'll see if we continue that success by the end of the season.
Is that culture as well, Armand, something that has been really key over the last 2.5 seasons or so? Because we've spoken to so many directors of rugby, chairmen, players this season, and one of the words they've always used is, well, we want to enjoy our rugby, and that's what makes us successful. That's what makes us drive to these victories. And just reading a few interviews that you've done over the last couple of years, that culture and players really feeling like the part of the club has been key to that.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, as someone who played at the time, I loved my rugby and enjoyed it. And the times I didn't enjoy my rugby was the times when there was maybe something wrong with the setup and how we went about our business. So pulling on those learning that I had at that time for me is now trying to implement a structure where, we all want to challenge ourselves and be better at what we're doing it every day. That's just the nature of who we are. But inevitably, enjoying it while we do it is quite important, because we want to make sure that we enjoy rugby, because we won't play rugby if we don't enjoy it, would we? So I think that's a massive component, and trying to echo that through the age groups while we're trying to develop everyone is just as important. We've got a club that's 1,500 strong, from a playing perspective, always trying to be aligned with the playing style and making sure the standards is of one that everyone can turn up and enjoy themselves while developing as well. So it's a fine act to balance some days, but inevitably everyone wants to come back and enjoy their time at the club, and I think that's really important for all of us at the club. So hopefully we can keep continuing that.
Yeah, and as a chairman, Shaun, that must make you extremely proud when Armand rattles off those few statistics there about so many players playing for Dorking. I know the senior Colts have enjoyed success in recent years. The women's section seems to be growing and growing. It must make you really proud when you step out into the club on a Saturday and you see such a thriving rugby club.
Well, in one respect, yes, but I think you don't want to get too complacent. So I think we always think, well, what can we incrementally do slightly better each year? And Armand's been good at challenging the board with those requests for improvements, and I think that's the whole club. I mean, it's lovely to see that we've got more members than we've ever had in the history of the club, and not all clubs could say that nowadays with the challenges, the macro challenges of rugby. But it is rewarding. But I say we don't want to be complacent. We want to keep driving forward and incrementally improving.
It shows a great attitude from Shaun and the rest of the board of the club, to sort of listen and sort of understand and try and implement, because we're all forward thinking as a club. So the fact that we are where we are now is not just down to me or Shaun, it's down to a collective of people at the club and how everyone's pulling in the same direction and seeing the bigger picture, really. And I think it's quite rewarding when you sometimes step back and see what you've achieved. But as Shaun said, we've got to keep improving this. There's times like those when you just sit back and expect it to happen. That's when it's not going to happen. So you've got to keep working on it.
Yeah, and keep him working on it, Armand. I know we're talking about the whole club there, but I guess when you are in such a competitive league as National 2 East, you have to keep working hard. You can't really stand still, can you, in this division? And it seems over the last 2.5 years, Dorking haven't done that.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I think we've got a great coaching group down at the club. They analyse both our performance and the opposition's performance. Almost sometimes you think some players might not watch it all, but inevitably we're working towards what we want to try and achieve. And if we don't turn every stone to try and see where we can find the best angle to try and get a victory for the club, then we won't be doing our job. So I'm very grateful for the whole team we've got helping drive the senior section forward.
I think personally it's rewarding, but it's also very rewarding to see. Last week we had some of our older life members at the club who'd been members for 60, 70 years, and they sent me a letter this week and saying it's so great to see the club flourish, and they hadn't seen it like that, and they're in their 90s, some of these guys, and they're still strong supporters of the club, and that's rewarding to see that we've got multi-generational support.
Yeah, and I'm sure that multi-generational support will be turning out absolutely on Saturday for a much welcome home game, Armand, for you guys. Obviously, looking at the fixtures and due to postponements as well, I think it's only 4 home games you guys have played so far this season. So I guess you're all itching to get back to the big field on Saturday afternoon.
Oh, I cannot express so much. I think 6 of the next 9 games are home games for us as well. So it's quite nice to fill in some home fixtures. But it's going to be a tough test. Henley has quite a seasoned team at the national level. So for them to come to us, they beat us at home last year, and it's quite a sour taste in your mouth when you've got a team coming over to you and you've got to try and do better than you did last year. So I'm sure they'll still be hurting from the first round fixtures over at their place. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and just sticking with you, Armand, before going back to Shaun, how important is it for you guys to continue what you're doing in terms of focusing internally on what you're doing, especially where you find yourselves in the league? Because us in the media, we like to write storylines, we like to write narratives and talk about title races, who's in the promotion battle, especially at this stage of the season. But for you guys internally, with all the fixtures that are going on around you, is it important for you just to try and concentrate on yourselves? And come 5 p.m. on a Saturday, then you can check the scores and see what happens elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we look at other teams' results and, who are they playing away. I think it's natural for any club to do so. I think from our perspective, it's generally focused on us and how we can be the best team on the day. And I think that's a weekly cycle we'll go through. You look at last year's results, was the best results the club's ever had in its 101 years history. So I want to go one better, and the club wants to go one better. And everyone signed that shirt. It's on the wall of the club last year, and everyone wants a new shirt to take that place, to be the best senior section this club's ever had. And yeah, it's a very exciting period. I would say definitely we want to be top or second is the goal. If we can get promoted, it'll be fantastic. First, I mean, obviously there's different challenges if that does happen, but inevitably the players have earned it, and that's the important part. They've worked really hard for that. So if we are in a position to be lucky enough to get promoted from Nat 2 to Nat 1, that'll be fantastic for us.
I don't think anybody in an administration position at a club should not want to get promoted, because it's slightly disingenuous not to supporting the players or putting so much effort in. So of course you want that. Now that doesn't make us arrogant thinking we're going to. Is that as you mentioned earlier, the quality in National 2 East is ever increasing, and I'm always impressed by the quality of all sides, not just our own. So it's a tough ask, and there's lots of other people in the mix, but we certainly want to support the players in their aspirations, and we share them.
So a massive thanks to both Armand and Shaun for their time on Tuesday. Really interesting to hear another club use relegation and past experiences as a way of aligning themselves across the board, across the whole of their club. For those who tuned into last week's show, you would have heard Blackheath talk about something similar when they were relegated from National 1 into National 2 East, and they're a club thriving in the third tier at the moment. And as Shaun said, Dorking have learned from their past experiences and are very much benefiting from that in National 2 East. And both Shaun and Armand weren't shying away from their aspirations either, were they? Targeting a top 2 finish, maybe even promotion to National 1. But Dorking's next assignment is back at the big field, where they host a Henley Hawks side who returned to winning ways in round 16 with a 17-12 Derby Day triumph over Oxford Harlequins. And both Dorking and Henley Hawks, they've had some really good contests between each other in recent times. So if you are in and around the Dorking area on Saturday, why not head to the big field to watch Dorking versus Henley, where I'm also told Dorking have the best chef in the league that has come from people at Dorking. So why not be the judge of it for yourself, whilst also enjoying some National League rugby on Saturday afternoon. So what else have we got in store then in round 17 in National 2 East? Well, 13th place Colchester and Bury St Edmunds had tough afternoons last time out. Of course, we talked about that gut-wrenching loss for Bury St Edmunds against Dorking, but the injury list piled up for Colchester away at Old Albanian. So both clubs will be looking for a morale-boosting display in the East Anglian derby. Dorking versus Henley we have touched on, and Dorking may well have one eye on what happens between Guernsey and league leaders Tunbridge Judians. It's certainly one of the standout fixtures this weekend. TJs have been almost faultless this term, but 5th place Guernsey have won all 7 of their home matches this year. So if the table toppers were to depart the Channel Islands with a victory, it will be a huge hurdle negotiated for Seb Sherwood and Jordan Turner Hall's Tunbridge Judians. And remember, round 5's meeting between these two went right to the wire, with Duncan Tout's try converted superbly by Tom White to clinch a late 38-37 win for Tunbridge Judians in that one. So more of the same, please, this weekend. Another side in the top 5, fourth place Canterbury, who have won 6 of their last 7 games. They came from behind to beat Guernsey 24-15 last time out and scored this stunning try in the process. So can the informed City men continue their momentum at 10th place? Haven't. 12th place Oxford Harlequins, who are 9 points clear of the bottom 2, entertain an informed Westcombe Park. David Marshall's side have won their last 4, including last week's 34-20 win against Hammond. So like Canterbury, can they continue their purple patch on the road? Elsewhere, Sevenoaks go up against Old Albanian. Oaks picked up a losing bonus point at second place Barnes last week, as we've mentioned already, and they may have even got more, while OAs are going for a 3rd win on the spin. And lastly, despite some of their rivals going head-to-head this week, including Guernsey versus Tunbridge Juniors, second place Barnes will be purely focused on their task in hand, away at bottom of the table, Worthing Raiders. International 2 North we go, where in round 16 it certainly wasn't straightforward for the leading title candidate, but from their perspective they all came away with the desired outcome. So we'll start with league leaders Leeds Tykes, who battled to a 33-28 away win at 7th placed Hull Ionians. The Tykes were 18-14 down on 54 minutes, but a penalty try and a score from Alaya Chitio gave them the lead going into the final quarter, and it is a lead they never relinquished, and a clinical edge proving key for Leeds Tykes at Bransington Park. As for second place Lynn, though, for the 3rd consecutive game, they were behind heading towards the final 10 minutes, this time against Sheffield Tigers. They trailed 26-23, but once again, their class, their composure shone through at Crouchley Lane, with England under-20s international Seb Kelly scoring the decisive try to clinch a 30-26 win for the Cheshire outfit. And that victory, by the way, means Lim are now unbeaten at home for over a calendar year. So that is a really good milestone for Adam Fletcher and Andy Davis's side. And there was also home success for 3rd placed Sheffield, who also had to come from behind against Tynedale at Aberdale Park. Now, Tyne arrived in Yorkshire on a 6-game unbeaten run and led 33-21 leading up to half-time in this one, but a try from Sheffield's Christian Hooper changed the dynamic, or seemingly changed the dynamic in this one, because Anthony Poser's men scored 22 unanswered points in the second half to surge to a 50-33 win. So a bonus point successes for all 3 of Leeds Tykes, Lim and Sheffield. So what it means for the promotion picture in National 2 North is it is as you were, with the top 3 separated by just 1 point. Leeds leading the way by virtue of a plus 18 points difference over Lim. Elsewhere, Wharfdale are now level on points with 4th place Fylde, albeit Fylde do have a game in hand, but the Green Machine tasted Derby Day delight in round 16 with a 42-28 win over Otley. Towards the bottom, it was a big weekend for Billingham, who lifted themselves off the foot of the table. Of course, we did feature Billingham on last week's preview show, and both Director of Rugby Peter Evans and head coach Dan Finney spoke about it being an opportunity against Hull to return to winning ways, and the North East side did just that, didn't they, by ending their 7-game drought with a 34-17 success at Greenwood Road. Great defence shown in this one by Billingham, as well as displaying a clinical edge when they needed to. So a really important win for Billingham, and it was an important win also for 9th place Preston Grasshoppers, who won 38-31 against Harrogate at Lightfoot Green. Dan Orwin's troops ending a 5-match winless run, and they now sit 9 points clear of the danger zone. And just a quick look at that bottom half before we go on to the fixtures, and as you can see, 6 points separate the bottom 5 as it stands, so it is very tight heading in to round 17. So let's have a look at those fixtures then for round 17, where Fylde and Hull Ionians will be looking to return to winning ways when the pair meet at Woodlands. Fylde lost away to Chester last week, while Hull Ionians' involvement in tight games continues after 3 consecutive narrow defeats. And in fact, these two played out a nip and tuck contest back in round 5, with Fylde prevailing 35-32. So what will go down in Lancashire this time around. Harrogate, who fell to the bottom of the standings last week after their loss at Preston, combined with Billingham's win, welcomed title candidates Lim to the Apollo Capital Stadium. Harrogate did dig deep to collect 2 bonus points last week thanks to a brace from Sam Brady, and they have picked up points in every home game this term, so what can they muster up against Lim? 11th placed Hull meets Wharfdale. Hull's loss to Billingham last time out leaves them 5 points clear of the danger zone, but one of their 5 wins this term did come away at Wharfdale in round 5, so can they repeat that feat, or will 5th place Dale exact their revenge in East Riding? Table toppers Leeds Tykes are back at the Sycamores to face Billingham. The Tykes haven't lost at home in 21 matches, so that is the challenge for the North East side, who will of course be buoyed by last week's win over Hull. One of Leeds' title rivals, Sheffield, are on the road at 10th placed Otley. 4 of Otley's 5 wins this season have come at Cross Green, and they did win their last home outing against Hull Ionians, but this is another big challenge against a top 6 side that awaits Otley on Saturday. Chester travelled to 12th place Sheffield Tigers. Chester kicked off their centenary year with a 25-19 win over 4th place Fylde last week, but now they will want to translate that onto the road. That is easier said than done though, against an ever-improving Sheffield Tigers side who are targeting a 3rd home win on the bounce. And after what felt like a key victory for Preston in round 16, they travelled to 6th place Tynedale in round 17. Hoppers play the teams around them in the table in February, but they will end this month with a tricky trip to the North East. In terms of time, they are a vastly different prospect in terms of performances and results since these two last met in October when they played out a 31-all draw. So will the hosts show how far they've come again this weekend? And we conclude in National 2 West, where we might be starting to see the top 2 pull away at the summit, beginning with league leaders Camborne, who absolutely showed their title credentials in round 16 against Loughborough Students. Steve Larkins' side came into the weekend having not lost at home all season, but they found themselves 21-7 down on 34 minutes against the Students. However, 2 quick-fire tries before half-time seemed to spark Camborne into life, because in the second half, they scored 6 tries, including this scorcher from Ben Priddy, which turned the tide in Camborne's favour as they eventually surged to a 59-28 victory. And their lead at the top remains at 4 points after second place Clifton defeated table rival Cinderford 39-18 away from home. Cinderford were unbeaten in 6 going into this one, but the Lavender and Blacks were able to shake off some post-Christmas rust to claim a 10th successive victory. So this wonderful run of form continuing for Clifton. And if you joined us on the National League Rugby preview show a couple of weeks ago when we featured Clifton, Director of Rugby Matt Salt has told us that, look, he wanted to wait till the end of January, the start of February, to assess where Clifton were. But as you can see by looking at the top half of the table, they are very much in this title race and very much in the title conversation. And Clifton actually go to Camborne next weekend, so a big couple of weeks for the top 2 in National 2 West. Third place Taunton actually climbed the position in round 16, but are 11 points off the top after they were left shell-shocked by 11th placed Bourneville. Now, Nick Mason's second try of the afternoon late on gave Taunton a 43-36 lead away at Bourneville in what was a thrilling second half, but what followed was a remarkable conclusion in the Midlands. Bourneville responded and were awarded a penalty try in 79 minutes, and then from the kickoff, a cross-field kick from deep inside their own 22 was collected by winger Nathan DeKarma, who ran the length of the field to snatch a simply unbelievable 50-43 win for Matt Price's side. And as you can see, the scaffolding there just presenting us seeing DeKarma's finish, but picture evidence here showing the elation at Avery Fields. A massive win for Bourneville though, who ended a run of 7 games without victory, and as you can see, they are now 4 points clear of the danger zone, with 13th place Macclesfield collecting 2 bonus points in a narrow 29-27 loss away at Old Redcliffian. But going back towards the top and going back to Taunton, they currently sit third in the standings, and it looks as though they will be playing catch up with the leading pair of Camborne and Clifton in this second half of the season. Now, the Titans were relegated from National 1 last year for the first time in 3 seasons, and in a highly competitive National 2 West, they may have been one of a cluster of clubs who were tipped to challenge for top spot this term. But Taunton, who are rebuilding a little bit this year, may have a hill to climb if they are to achieve that in 2024-25. But the immediate focus for Tony Yapp and his side will be returning to winning ways, and they have an opportunity to do that under the Friday night lights of Veritas Park when they entertain Exeter University. And Taunton are our second feature club of the week on the National League Rugby Preview Show. Now, viewers of the National League Rugby Preview Show and watchers of National League Rugby who are based in the Southwest will know there are very, very large number of overlaps between Taunton and Exeter University, not least with Taunton boss Tony Yapp himself, who has a long affiliation with Exeter University's university programme, who of course compete in BUCS Rugby with their first team, very much one of the main sides in BUCS Super Rugby. And Tony has had that affiliation for around 20 years or so, as well as his commitments to Taunton Titans. So Tony, a very good example of that. And there are also players who have played for both institutions who have gone on to really strong things in the game, not least Emmanuel Faye-Waboso, who of course played for Taunton a couple of years ago in National 1. He was also part of Exeter University, and he's gone on to obviously play for Exeter Chiefs and become a fully fledged England international. Guys like Sam Skinner as well, he's gone on to represent Scotland. And there's also a current example of exciting emerging talent, Noah Fenton, who was scoring tries for fun on the wing for Taunton a couple of years ago, but has now been doing that in the green and white of Exeter University this season in National League Rugby. And with these kind of player examples, they do fall under the umbrella of Premiership outfit Exeter Chiefs, who do really place an importance on allowing their young players to develop in the national leagues with clubs like Taunton and Plymouth Albion and National 1, as well as Exeter University in National League Rugby, and of course in the BUCS rugby system as well. So ahead of Taunton versus Exeter University on Friday night, we caught up with Titans boss Tony Yapp and skipper Ratu Vakalutukali, but we were also lucky enough earlier this week to get a few minutes with Exeter Chiefs Director of Rugby Rob Baxter, and that is included in this feature. So, Tony, let's begin with yourself, of course. And, you know, coming into this season, there was a bit of talk around Taunton with them coming back into National 2 after a few seasons in National 1. But as we sit here going into round 17, which starts on Friday night for you guys, where is the dial in terms of this season, in terms of how satisfied you are with where Taunton are at?
I think we're pretty happy with large parts. I think, to underestimate the level of the teams in this league would be silly. We missed out on the last game of the season in National 1 to get to drop back down again. But, we were in a position where we wanted to try and retain as many players as we could, bring a few new players in as well. And we saw this as an opportunity to sort of rebuild it and move on again. A lot of teams, sometimes they tend to get relegated and then really struggle. I think we've sort of equipped ourselves quite well to sort of push ourselves back towards the top of the league. And, I think we've been really pleased with a lot of results, probably a little bit disappointed with some as well. So a bit of a mixed bag, really. But, on the whole, it's, from a club point of view, everything's very positive.
We had a rough idea of where National 2 West is in terms of competitiveness. It's definitely not far off National 1. We knew it was going to be tough, sort of physically, with a lot of sort of local games and local teams that we play against. So we didn't come into it surprised at all with how tough the league is.
And Tony, I don't want to kind of focus on it too much, but I've got to kind of mention the Bourneville game last weekend. It was a remarkable game to kind of look back on, and I'm sure it wasn't the easiest one to watch from Taunton's perspective. But now the dust has kind of settled a little bit. Are there any takeaways you can take from that match going into this Friday night?
Yeah, first and foremost, probably how well Bourneville played. I'm not saying it was a surprise, but based on their league position at the moment. I think speaking to them afterwards, they said it's by far the best game they played, and credit to them that they stuck at it right until the end. And I think from our point of view, we didn't start overly well and give them a little bit more momentum than we would have liked to. And I think from then on, it was sort of the game swung both ways, and a couple of basic errors from us sort of late in the game cost us, but we will learn and move on. We've got quite a young squad. We've got a good relationship with a number of local schools, and we've had a number of young guys get involved. We've had 4 18-year-old boys play. We've had guys from Blundell's, from Clifton, from Millfield. So we've got quite a young squad, and those guys have played a lot over the last few seasons. We had another guy making his debut on the wing, so it's a good opportunity for us to give people a chance. But on the flip side, we are sort of competitive. We are looking to try and win games, and as frustrating as it was on Saturday, the good thing about this league, the games come thick and fast, and you've only got 7 days, well in this case 6 days, to get yourself organised and try and put things right. So we're really looking forward to Exeter on Friday.
And just sticking with you, Tony, on to kind of Friday night with Exeter University. For you, how are these games for you personally? For people who don't know, Tony has kind of had a foot in the Exeter University camp for, I'm not sure how many years now, Tony, maybe like 15, 20 years.
I think it's just over 20 years.
Just over 20 years as a coach, but also helping sort of the Bucks University lads with the kicking as well. So how are these games for you, Tony? Because I guess you kind of know so many people on the opposition.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult one. I know Gareth very well. I know Rich Hodges very well as well. And, we all get on well. There's a real respect between the two teams as well. We play each other in pre-season. So we've got a really good relationship. And it's one of those games where it's going to be competitive both ways. I was with some of the boys on Tuesday morning for a kicking session, and they're quite quick to point out that we'd lost to Bourneville. So I was quite quick to point out that we're trying to put things right for Friday. So hopefully we can do that. And my priority on Friday is certainly with Taunton. But at the same time, over the course of the season, I do look out for the results of Exeter and support their campaign as well. So and obviously their Bucks campaign. So from that point of view, there's sort of a slightly bit more riding on it, I suppose, in terms of having a foot in both camps. But like I say, outside of this weekend, then I'm supportive of both teams.
And for you as a player, Ratu, obviously, two big teams in the Southwest. What are these occasions like for players to be involved in? Because I guess there are relationships and friendships on both sides, and players may have played for both teams. I think Noah Fenton's probably the most recent example, playing for you guys last year and Exeter University this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Taunton's always been fortunate enough to get some of the fruit from Exeter Uni and like Yapp said, the local school. So there's a lot of sort of friendships involved between the lads playing at different clubs and all of that. But I guess that actually fuels the game a lot more. So so knowing that you've got people playing on the opposition who sort of outside the rugby club always brings a better spectacle to the game, I think. So hopefully this Friday there should be no disappointment in that.
Yeah, and Tony, just kind of on the sort of wider picture in terms of kind of the overlaps between sort of Taunton and Exeter University in recent years. Obviously, Manny Fayuboso is probably the most notable example, but you've got like guys like Sam Skinner. I mentioned kind of Noah Fenton as well. It just adds to the occasion, doesn't it, that some of these lads that you've probably worked with on both sides in a weird sort of way have been part of this in the past, and guys currently you're working with as well.
Yeah, no, it's great. We're very fortunate with where we're situated. We're sort of between Bristol and Exeter, so we're able to sort of pick up on the players that are available in that area. And I think we've had a lot of success over the seasons with players coming on loan. We've had, like I say, Manny came in, within 12 months of playing for Taunton, he's playing for England, which is amazing. And we love to see players go on. And I think for us as a rugby club, one of the biggest things for us is trying to create opportunities. So when young, ambitious rugby players come in, it's trying to create opportunities for them. Can we upskill them? Can we improve them as players? Can we sort of push them off in the right direction? And as a club, we're so proud to sort of look across the leagues or across international rugby and Premiership rugby and see people like Manny, people like Stu Townsend, Joe Simmons, the list goes on. Jake Warden was another one, and to be able to see those guys playing on TV, it's very good for us. And like I say, from a recruitment point of view, it's very much a case, if you're young, if you're ambitious and you want to play at the highest level and you're willing to work hard, then hopefully Taunton's a good place for you to come, because hopefully we're in a position where we can try and upskill you and give you that opportunity to move on and play at a high level.
Oh, for me, it's very important. I mean, if you look at this week is a really, really good example for us as a club and the systems we have in place alongside Exeter University. So we're currently in an England under-20 period. So quite a number of our academy players, which is quite a number of the university's frontline players are away with England. That makes them unavailable for today's Bucks game, where they're away at Nottingham. That means the Bucks team have called up quite a few lads who would be playing in that Saturday team on Friday, which creates even further opportunities for guys probably to be getting their first taste or an extra taste of adult rugby for the first time, what you'd call truly adult rugby, for the first time playing for Exeter University against Taunton, who are a good team, one of the top 3-4 of the league. That's the kind of systems you want to have in place, where there's a step up, there's a step up, there's a step up, and you can feed one into the other. And for a lot of our players, particularly front five forwards, but particularly front five forwards, having their first taste of adult rugby in those Saturday sides is an absolutely fantastic learning experience for them. So different to anything else they're going to experience on the way up the ladder, that when you go into those and you play regular games against teams that can push, can scrum, have got a bit of wiliness about them, know a little bit of plays to challenge you, are a bit heavier and stronger and are more mature than you. All those things, they're fantastic learning curves for the players. When you look at it that way round, you can see how quickly progression can happen. And that's what we want. We want a progressive ladder there. The likes of Plymouth and Taunton and the Exeter University side, where we have lads on loan or playing their adult rugby, absolutely fantastic for us. And we couldn't really contemplate putting in place a better system than what we have there now. I think the work the Exeter University have done in line with us, along with getting their Saturday team online, it's all been very, very good for the game.
I think from my point of view, it's very much a case of, can you create moments, can you create opportunities for people? And if you can be a very small part of their journey, then that makes me sort of very proud, I suppose. And I mean, able to talk to people in the future and sort of talk about their time at Taunton and how it helped them maybe, and how we can support them is massively important. National League rugby is massively valuable for the future of the game in terms of the quality, because a lot of players that play at the highest level, Premiership level, have probably played National League rugby at some stage, and for us as sort of directors of rugby and coaches, it's a case of sort of can we identify good players, can we bring good players in, can we upskill them, and then support them on their journey. So I think National League rugby is massively important, and I think from a Premiership point of view, you'd be silly to sort of ignore that.
And bringing it back kind of to the reason why we're having a chat really today around the Exeter University game on Friday night, Ratu. How much do you kind of look forward to occasions like this? Because National League rugby, there aren't too many Friday night games that we have in the calendar, but we have two in National 2 West this time. And I know a couple of weeks ago against Camborne, you had a really good strong crowd. I think it was over 1,100. So I guess you're hoping for a similar atmosphere, a similar turnout on Friday, which can obviously help the lads forward.
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone loves a Friday night game. We've had games against Clifton like that in the past, and it's always packed out the Vergers Park. So this Friday, yeah, hopefully it'll be no different in terms of turnout, and then that leads on to hopefully a good performance on the pitch.
It's massively important for us that we sort of get back onto it. In terms of our performance, over the course of the season, we're looking to finish as high as we possibly can. So we, every, old cliche, but we're taking every game as it comes. And I think this week, I say it's 6 days after a disappointment up at Bourneville to put things right. So I know the guy he trained well last night. Everyone's sort of geared towards Friday. And like you say, I think with the National League as it stands at the moment for us, with the local derbies like Clifton and Hornets, Exeter University, and so forth, we're in a very fortunate position to be able to do this. And we had a great support, like you mentioned, against Camborne, and a great crowd against Camborne. And I think the Friday night game under lights just sort of creates a slightly different buzz to everything. Local derbies tend to bring out the best in everyone. So every game we play locally is tougher than it probably would if you're playing further away. So I think from our point of view, we're excited for the running for the rest of the season. We're keen to sort of get going and sort of try and put a run together, but we're under no illusion that if we're not on it on a Saturday, we'll lose. It's as simple as that. I say from our point of view, initially it was like, we come down into Nat 2. Can we re-establish ourselves? Can we bring a few more players in, get a few more players involved? Okay, and just push to be as high up the league as we possibly can. Yes, I think we'd love to get promoted, but there's probably about 6 other clubs in the league that would also like to get promoted, so we're not on our own in that respect. So for us, it's a case of performance, putting together the best performances we can, picking up the best results that we can, and just trying to finish as high as we can. And then, as we go into next year, then the challenge would be to finish a little bit higher and just keep working to build the club around that.
So a big thanks to both Ratu and Tony for their time this week. And also thanks again to Exeter Chiefs and to Rob Baxter for their support around the National League Rugby preview show. Now, we did something similar with Sale Sharks Director of Rugby Alex Sanderson back in December when we featured Preston Grasshoppers in National 2 North. So if that interview is also of interest to you, do check it out as it's available on our YouTube channel. But from an Exeter Chiefs perspective, they were more than happy to help on this occasion. So thanks again to them. And of course, thanks to Tony and Ratu once more. So in terms of the game itself between Taunton and Exeter University, it is a 7:30 p.m. kickoff at Veritas Park, with Exeter arriving in Somerset at 1 place and 2 points above the danger zone, but they do have a game in hand, while the hosts will be keen to improve on just one win from their last 5 matches. And just quickly, there is a 2-course carvery taking place at Veritas Park on Friday night, and guests are able to book a table via Taunton's Club Office. So if you are interested in doing so, the details for Taunton's Club Office are in the description of this video, so you can make a really good evening of it on Friday night. It is also Taunton's 150th anniversary this year, and they are holding an end-of-season event on May 17th. So if that is of interest to you as well, and you're one of these people who like to book things in advance and look ahead, do contact the club office. As we say, those details are in the description of this video. So what else have we got to look forward to then in round 17 in National 2 West? Well, along with Taunton's meeting with Exeter University, we have a second Friday night game with Loughborough students hosting Bourneville. Students can take positives from their performance against league leaders Camborne last week as they target a 3rd home win on the spin, while Bourneville will have a spring in their step ahead of this Midlands derby after round 16's heroics against Taunton. On to Saturday, where second place Clifton will be going for 11 wins on the bounce when they host Hinckley. Hinckley picked up a very good 54-31 victory over Hornets last time out to make it 3 wins from the last 4 matches. And in fact, the last team to beat Clifton were Hinckley back in round 5, a 32-26 win on that occasion. But going to Station Road will be a different kettle of fish. 4th place Cinderford will be looking to get back on the horse at the first attempt when they travel to bottom of the table Devonport Services. Devonport Services really gave 5th place Luctonians a run for the money last time out, but just couldn't take their opportunities in a 12-5 defeat at Mortimer Park. But can they take some of those plus points into round 17? Another near miss for Devonport Services last week. Tabletoppers Camborne are the latest team to travel to Hornets. We know Hornets have a really good home record, a really good recent home record. They were unbeaten in 6 at the Nest, and they ran Camborne very close in the reverse fixture back in October when they lost 33-27 at the Recreation Ground. So can they cause a few headaches for the league leaders again? Macclesfield will be seeking back-to-back home wins when Luctonians visit Cheshire on Saturday. The Blues really did put in a positive showing on Old Redcliffians last week, where they held the lead twice but were narrowly beaten in the end. But we know just how capable they are at Priory Park. As for Lux, they'll be looking for their first away win since September after 4 without a victory on the road. And an informed Red Roof, who have lost just 1 of their last 7 matches following last week's success away at Exeter University, host Old Redcliffians, who will be targeting 3 wins in a row. So it has been a slightly longer show this week, so that's probably all we've got time for on round 17's edition of the National League Rugby Preview Show. For those who've already hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, thank you so much for doing so. If you haven't, it is free to do, so why not just give that subscribe button a little click? It just supports National League Rugby, and we'd appreciate it if you're able to do that. On to the usual stuff. Please do like and share our content on YouTube as well as across our social media channels, and don't forget to give us a follow as well on social media. Do visit our website for the latest reviews and previews. And don't forget, come Friday evening at 10 p.m. this week. And of course, come 5 p.m. on Saturday, all round 17 scores will be available to view on our website. So why choose anywhere else to find out what has gone on in levels 3 and 4 in round 17. As always, don't forget to give talkingrugbyunion.co.uk a visit if you can. They are massive supporters of National League Rugby, and I know Mark Ashcroft has been putting some excellent stuff together on Talking Rugby Union's YouTube channel as well. So give that a little view and a little check out if you can, and don't forget to give talkingrugbyunion.co.uk a visit as well. But as always, thank you so much for watching the National League Rugby preview show this week, and after a weekend of big results and thrilling comebacks in round 16, let's hope for more of the same in round 17.